Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host, and I have a very interesting guest from the SETI Institute on tonight, Dr. Franck Marchis or Marchis. He's from France. I forgot to ask him how he pronounced his last name, and sorry about the rough start. We're ready to go. Can you explain to the audience your background and what got you interested in the UFO topic?
Well, I'm an astronomer. I'm a senior astronomer at the SETI Institute, an institution we search for life, any type of life in the universe. You probably know about the SETI Institute and your audience as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I started my career 25 years ago, even more, looking for building instruments, ground-based telescope instruments with adaptive optics in the goal of improving the image quality of telescopes. So starting with 4-meter class telescope that went to 8, 10-meter class telescope like the Keck, the VLT, and the image planets in our solar system, asteroids, find asteroids with moons, etc. Then went to the exoplanet field to search for exoplanets, planets in orbit around other stars. And then basically we went from that to, I joined the institute, the SETI Institute, and I've been working there for more than 10 years now on developing instruments to search for life, developing instruments to search for Earth-like exoplanet from the ground, but also from space. And I'm also part of the outreach and communication team of the SETI Institute. So I talk a lot about the search for life. But in fact, I'm going to confess something. I found a text that I wrote when I was 17 years. I was kind of a hacker at the time when I was, and I wrote a text that was part of a program and so on, something complicated. But then I can read myself, and I talk about the Fermi paradox, and I talk about SETI and the importance of searching for life. So at 17, I was already focusing on doing this, but I don't think I ever dreamed that I will become an astronomer at the SETI Institute.
Well, I was hoping you were going to say when you were 17, you had a UFO sighting.
I've seen a lot of stuff in the sky. Yes.
Yeah, but things that you've seen can be explained so far, or?
Yes, everything can be explained. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're going to get into all that because I listened to you on another program. You're not closed-minded. Now, I had sort of I would call it a debate with your colleague Seth Shostak, who is now 79 years old and still looks pretty young for that age. He's still still right there working away, right?
Yes, he's still. We have meetings every week, in fact. With Seth,
yeah.
So.
But anyway, you know, he was. After listening to you and talking with Seth, I would have to say that you're more open-minded to the possibility that at least something is happening. I never like to say that it's aliens myself because I really feel that no one really knows for sure what the strange objects are that people are seeing. But what do you think about that in general? And one thing I sort of accused Seth of when he was on my show, I said, of course, if you said there's possible UFOs and it's possible some of them may be extraterrestrial somehow, then you would lose your funding, right? You know, I posed that question to him. But so what do you think in general about at least what's going on? I know that a new program was just set up with a better acronym. I think it's called AARO or something like that. It's about anomalous research. But anyway, what do you think about all that in general?
So I think what you're asking me is what I think about the recent activity in the UAPs, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's more scientific look at it now than ever before.
Yeah. So I'm part of the scientists that believe that it's interesting that first of all people pay attention to this. People are interested in the existence of UAPs and extraterrestrial civilization. I'm part of the generation who grew up with those people, and frankly, I met some of them, and I do respect what they do. Some of them are extremely using scientific method to try to understand what's going on, building instruments, trying to do some recording, and so on. So I think it's important that we let the people do their own investigation. Science should not be part only of the scientific community, or the people should be able to do science. And sometimes they shake our ideas and they bring some new ideas to the field. So I do appreciate that. I have no personal views about UAPs because I'm not part of these people who have done and studies those videos, for instance, those more recent videos. I believe as scientists, we should pay attention to that. As scientists, we should bring our expertise to the studies of those videos, to the understanding of what's going on, what has been photographed, what has been filmed, especially in the most recent videos, especially those coming from military aircraft and so on, because those instruments are extremely similar to the instruments we're using on telescopes. So if there is people in the community that can bring expertise in understanding, analyzing those videos, they should be, astronomers should be part of it. We should be part of this conversation and helping analyzing those observations.
I have to tell you, and since you've been at this for a while, you probably would agree. Don't you think the needle has moved on that in the last 3 years or so? Because before it was like such a taboo topic for any scientist, and now there's an organization I have a small involvement with, like the SCU, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. That's full of really great scientists that are really taking a hard look at this, which I think is important. And you bring up a good point that a lot of times someone from the outside can, maybe think out of the box a little bit, that may be able to help. A lot of discoveries, I'm sure, are made in that manner.
Yeah. So, and the fact that NASA is putting together an UAP independent study group is the sign that the needle has moved. It's the sign that the needle has moved in a way that we need to give an answer to the people. I mean, we cannot be scientists living in the bubble tower or hiding our head in the sand and pretending that nothing is happening. I mean, my kids talk to me about UAPs, and they're teenagers. They want to know what's going on, and that's normal. So we need to provide an answer, and providing an answer will be done using the scientific method, in my mind. And that's why this committee that NASA is putting together is a very important step toward bringing answers and maybe bringing experts around the table to understand what's going on.
And do you think it's possible that even with all the scientific instruments being used, that we still may not be able to, even if we have really good data, we still may not be able to understand what's going on? Or do you think that we definitely will? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought is that there is more than, I forgot the number, but 400 sites or 400 recordings of weird stuff happening in the sky. And we're probably going to spend years and probably get some explanation for 3/4 or even more of them. And there will be still some which will remain mysterious. And in a way, they're mysterious because because we don't have an explanation yet. But don't forget that science evolved very quickly. And that's one of the reasons I like the fact that we're putting together those scientists around the table. Because one of the problems we have is also that we don't have the tools yet to interpret this data properly. So having those experts around the table will help getting those models to understand what's going on, to be able to analyze this data and provide a response. Whatever the response will be, we will have some measurements, some calculations.
Right. I think it was Jacques Vallée. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's out your way. He's in San Francisco, but he's been looking at this topic for many years. He's a computer scientist, but I think I may be misquoting him, but I think he said something along the lines where if we found out what they were, we may not even understand. And I like that. And I also, he says something along the lines that, it may be several things, all of, not just extraterrestrial, but it could be all different types of things. Next week, I have Dr. Michael Masterzon, who has a theory of time travel, which is another interesting aspect. I love to hear about all these different thoughts on what we may be seeing. But there really is, you know, I mean, when you see someone like David Fravor talking about that Tic Tac encounter back in 2004, and a very credible witness along. There were some other people also. I'm trying to remember the name of the female, Alex Dietrich, also was a wing woman during that and saw the same thing. You know, they all saw this together. And, you know, when you get someone credible like that, and then you have all the data from that, it just seems like we should be able to crack something. And, you know, when the data disappeared on that, I know that that it was taken by someone. I'm going to have Gary Voorhees on here in a couple of weeks. He's going to talk about exactly what happened during that encounter. So that thing, this has been happening. I'm sure you're probably not aware of this, but for years, the government has taken away really good data away from a situation, away from, you know, from people. I don't know where it is, where it went, but that has happened repeatedly over the years, all the way back. Gordon Cooper talks about when he was out in the desert. He wasn't filming, but they were filming. A crew that he had was filming, you know, some test planes, and this UFO came and landed right there during the filming. So they got it on really good film. He brought it, had it developed. He actually saw it up to the light. He could see exactly what they were telling him about, but he had to ship that off, and that went to Washington, like with a courier. So the stuff has been going somewhere for all the way back since the late 1940s. And so, but I'm not saying because it's been going somewhere, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but they probably have somewhere in the government, or compartmentalized somewhere, they have this data, but I don't think they know anything more about it than anyone else still. I mean, that's my thoughts about it.
Yeah. Just, I don't know much about this data, but the fact that they exist and the fact that they are being stored somewhere mean that they could be interesting. And maybe the fact that NASA will request access to them may change the game here. Maybe we will have more of those data revealed because scientific investigation have been done on them, and scientists will come with some kind of explanation. That's my hope. Again, I'm a true believer in transparency for science, because that's the way we do progress. So
Yes.
The game is changing, the rules are changing, and I think the public has been helping with that, and I'm glad that this is happening, in fact.
Yes, Lee Spiegel just said that was, Gordon Cooper at Edwards Air Force Base, where that landing was. So I think that's great. I think that's really great that people like you do not say. I don't know if you ever heard of Stanton Friedman. He's a longtime ufologist. He used to say, "Don't bother me with the facts. My mind is made up." You know, that's how a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of people in the science field kind of touted that type of response because it was such a taboo subject. They didn't want to touch UFOs. You know, now we call them UAPs. I don't know if it makes it anything better.
Yeah.
Do you ever use the term UAP and someone asks you what does that mean, and then you have to say UFO?
Yes, it's and sometimes in French we say ovni, which is even more difficult. So yeah, I have to explain UAPs, UFO often, but it's the way we call them is not what really matter. It's what they are,
exactly,
which is very important.
A rose is a rose. Yeah. So, well, this is to me, this is an interesting conversation because I like what you're saying. You know, science is supposed to be open. You know, the discoveries are happening all the time, and I liked having Avi Loeb on the couple of times I had him on, because he is open-minded, and he said we should have the curiosity of a child looking at these things, which I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you think about what is it, dark matter makes up something like 90-something% of the universe. We have no idea what that is, right? I mean,
yeah.
So
we still don't know a lot. We still don't know a lot, in fact, and that's That's why it's great we send space telescopes and build those gigantic telescopes and to realize that how much we don't know about our own universe. And we don't even know much about planets in our own solar system. We still don't know what there is beneath the crust of ice of Europe, of ocean, of Europa and Ganymede, for instance. We have suspicion that there could be life there, microbiological life, but we still didn't go there. So
Yeah, I
it's
hope
progress.
that I hope that someday. I know there's going to be some type of an observation of that moon, right? There's something being sent out there at some point.
Yeah, there is two major projects. One is to launch the Clipper Europa mission. Is basically a mission that's going to orbit around Europa and be able to analyze the geysers, the gas coming out
Right.
of
Yeah.
the crust through the crust. That's one mission. And for Enceladus, which is the moon of Saturn, there is this idea of sending a mission through the vent of the gas there and capturing crystal of ice, because we know it's snow on the surface of this tiny moon, and analyze those on board the telescope, on board the robotic spacecraft, to see if there is some kind of biology happening in the underneath the surface as well. So we are making progress. We are developing instruments. We don't have yet the funding for some of those missions, specifically the one for Enceladus, but it may come.
Right. Right. So, can you explain what your typical day at SETI when you're involved in doing something for SETI? What is that like?
So I manage a group of multiple scientists who work on specifically on the unistellar network. I don't know if you are familiar with this. No?
I'm sorry.
Unistellar?
What is it?
Unistellar.
Unistellar.
Unistellar,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Those are I have one telescope behind me here. So those
Ah.
are telescopes that people can get, purchase for themselves, which are telescopes which are extremely powerful, digital smart robotic telescope that everybody can use. And with this telescope, we have a partnership with the SETI Institute. So we basically, at the SETI Institute, we can send alert to the entire network of those tiny telescopes around the world, and they observe things happening in the sky for us. So Unistellar is a private company, and SETI Institute is the scientific institution for this project. So if there is a comet happening in the sky, like right now there is comet K2, I can send a notification and people record the observation and send us the observation, and we can create a super image of this comet by combining all the data. So we're creating a community of citizen astronomers,
Wow.
and they basically help SETI Institute's researcher to do research, which could be planetary defense to help defending the planets, comets activity, cometary activity. It could be as well transiting exoplanets. We can detect Jupiter-sized exoplanet transiting stars using this telescope. And of course, we're ready for the unexpected. If something happening in the sky and we want to characterize it quickly, I can just basically send an alert through our Slack channel. We have 1,000 observers right now, and they will be able
Wow.
to observe it. It will be night somewhere on this planet, and they will be able to observe what's going on. So this is one of the big outreach scientific project of the SETI Institute, and I'm the lead of this project. And we have multiple scientists doing this. So doing this implies basically communicating to the public, involving us citizen astronomers, making sure they observe. We have a robotic, smart pipeline that processes the data almost in real time, so they get quickly the result of their observations. So we are creating this community of eyes capable of observing the sky 24/7 using this network.
Amazing. That's amazing. That's really great. That's really great. Before we move on, I just want to go back quickly to dark matter, if I could. And my question is, do astronomers kind of like kick around, when they're like, I don't know, golfing or out at a bar or something like that, their thoughts on what the possibilities I know no one really knows what it is, but what are some of the possibilities that people kick around that you've heard of what dark matter may actually be?
So that's not my field at all. So
Okay.
I'm not gonna be. I just gonna say that one of the most radical idea that we have about dark matter is that in fact dark matter does not exist. Dark matter is here to show that the fact that we don't understand the structure of the universe. So
Yeah.
dark matter
That's probably
is
making,
not.
yeah,
Is
that probably makes
basically
more
here.
sense. It probably
Yes.
makes more sense because I know, you know, Einstein's theory and I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called, you know, when it's moving away, the red, what's it
Yeah,
called?
the redshift. Mm-hmm.
The redshift, yeah, and stuff like that. But it's so hard to understand everything. And like you said earlier, you know, we're making discoveries all the time. Science is always making new discoveries. And I think the saying, I'm trying to remember who it was that the saying goes something like, we know what we know is a drop and what we don't know is an ocean. And that's like a real old saying, you know, it's
That's
hundreds of years
probably
old.
true. And what I
Yeah.
often say when I explain science to people is that science is not an answer; it's an approximation. So that's mean what I meant by that is that when the theory we built are basically an attempt to reflect the reality, but the reality is probably more complex than what we can perceive, human being. So that's the reason we have very complex now theory of the structure of the universe, and we have been trying to basically study them using the LHC and so on, and they fit more or less. The existence of the boson of Higgs and so on seems to fit the theory. But now we are noticing already using the LSC, the Large Hadron Collider, some slight variation in the theory. And those slight variation are truly what is interesting, because they implies that we have an approximation of the reality. So we need to build better theory to really encompass and understand the structure of the universe. So that's why science is always an approximation which evolve over time and get better and better, I hope. So one day we will fix this problem of the dark matter. One day we will understand that this dark matter is maybe an interaction with particles from another kind of dimension that we don't perceive. I don't know. I'm making up stories here, but we will probably evolve. And this evolution is important in science. Science should be always moving forward and always changing. And the only way you can do that is by being challenged all the time.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let go of your beliefs if they're wrong.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I would like to talk about the James Webb Telescope. I was really excited about that. I actually got to see it down at Goddard Space Center when it was being built. Well, I was there around 2017, I think, or earlier. And, you know, they started it. It started out as a $1 billion project. Then it was a $3 billion project. And then, but it's so complicated because of how they had to get this thing up in space and not have any problems. I know there was something like 344 first point failures or something like that before launch. But I mean, the mirror is what gets me. The mirror is like a mirror that's stacked together. I saw the mirror when they had it out when I was down there, and but it had to be stacked on top of each other, and then it's just crazy how it goes out a million miles in space and unfolds itself, and then the tennis court size shield goes out. Everything went exactly the way it was supposed to, which is really amazing. And now it can be out there for something like 20 years and not with the amount of fuel because everything went so smoothly, which I think is fantastic. So were you following that all along when that launched and everything?
Yeah. And in fact, the unistellar network that I mentioned follow it. We follow the entire JWST from the launch almost all the way to when you reach the Lagrange point. So we have data that show the opening of the sun shield, the opening of the primary mirror has been detected using our telescope. And this
Oh
is
my
done
goodness!
with a
Wow.
community of 50 people around the world, 50 observers, 57 exactly, observe that. And we have the data to show this. And we also see the glint of the solar panel from time to time when the orientation was perfect. We see as well that they located the telescope in a way that it was spinning on itself in 6 hours. So those are data that we collected with this telescope and basically been very useful for NASA to know as what's going on. We hope that in the future, when the telescope is being has some issue, for instance, they will position it the same way that it was when they launched it to the Lagrange point, and we can take the same measurement and see, for instance, some variation of light due to the degradation of the sun shield or the primary mirror. I don't hope for that, but it may happen. So we basically have collected the data that will be the standard to analyze and to understand the way JWST behave.
There were
So
so many
yes, I
things that
follow
could have
this.
gone. Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
There's so many things that could have gone wrong, and it's just amazing that it went so smoothly. I mean, I'm sure everyone was breathing a sigh of relief when that launched.
Yes,
First of all, I mean, you know, yeah.
everybody.
Here's a question. Yeah, here's a question about the James Webb Telescope that came in from chat. Will the Webb Telescope be able to look at what object is influencing Neptune's orbit? Are you familiar with that?
Yes, so we with the James Webb Space Telescope is designed to observe in the mid-infrared, far infrared mostly. So it means that it will be able to observe very distant objects in our own solar system. The reason for this is because when they're far, they are basically cold because solar system body don't emit light; they just simply reflect light. So if they're far away from the sun, they have extremely cold temperatures. They reflect light, they emit light, which is mostly in the infrared. So we hope to be able to use the JWST to truly understand the outer part of the solar system, understand what's going on beyond the orbit of Neptune, detect even larger trans-Neptunian objects. We know a few of them which are 1,000 kilometers or less, 300 kilometers around the sun, and we know that is significantly more because we see perturbation in this complex family. So the JWST will probably find some of them, or at least help us to understand what they are, what they do in terms of rotation on themselves, their size, if they are moons, etc. So it's going to be a game changer for us to basically be able to use this telescope to study the outer part of the solar system.
Now, the James Webb also has a way to possibly detect if there's life on, on an Earth-like planet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. There's one that's a system that's 40 light years away. TRAPPIST, what's it called?
TRAPPIST-1.
TRAPPIST-1.
TRAPPIST-1 is one of the
There's
targets.
three Earth-like planets around there. Now, can you explain to the audience how James Webb may be able to detect? I know it has to do with the planet going in front of the sun and all that, and the atmosphere, right?
So JWST was not designed to directly image exoplanets. It will, but that's not really what it's going to be able to do the most. It's going to be able to analyze the atmosphere of a planet when the planet is passing between us and the host star. So when the planet is passing in front of the star, the light of the star slightly decreases in intensity. It's very small, and we're talking about less than 1%, definitely. But JWST will be also able to analyze the drop of brightness and see the color of this drop. And by looking at the color of this drop, it will be able to analyze the composition of the atmosphere of those planets. So one of the big projects we have with JWST is to observe those planets which orbit around the star and are in the habitable zone, in the zone where you expect to find water, and be able to analyze the atmosphere of those planets. If we see, for instance, the presence of gas is similar to what you see on Earth, it may imply that this planet is very similar to our own planet. I'm talking about detection of nitrogen, O3, carbon dioxide, etc., etc. If we see the same chemical composition in this planet, we may say, wow, there is life, and life similar to our on this planet. We have no guarantee that it will work, but we are starting the search using this space telescope.
And so I know that SETI is using the radio telescopes, I believe, the array and all that. But how exactly are I know the WOW signal, when was that, 1979 or 1980 or whenever it was? That's interesting. But how is SETI looking besides radio signals? What are the other ways is SETI trying to detect life out there?
So there is multiple ways. I could talk about this for hours, but let me just tell you that one of the major ways we're developing new instruments to search for lasers coming from civilizations. So you can expect that if a civilization slightly more advanced than us, let's take 10, 20 years more advanced, will probably communicate essentially using lasers because it's a better way, it's faster, can send more data, etc. So if they know we are here, because there's already used and developed a new space telescope, they will basically be able to use their lasers, point toward us, to tell us we are here. Well, if they do that right now, there is very few chance that this will be detected because almost nobody is looking for laser spots in the sky. So SETI's developed what we call the laser SETI array, which is an array that observes the entire sky 24/7. We have one station in California, a second one in Hawaii, and we're going to open multiple stations around the world so we can completely cover the entire sky and see continuously there is a laser pulse coming from an intelligent civilization who simply wants to tell us we are here and we want to communicate. So this looks like science fiction, but it's happening right now. That's one project, which is the search for technosignatures. Then at SETI Institute, in fact, a lot of us, I would say more than 70 scientists, do work in the search for life in our solar system by helping developing instruments that will be able to dig underneath the surface of Mars, see in the cave of Mars whether or not there is life, for instance, so Enceladus that we mentioned, or Europa, etc. And a very large proportion of those scientists are now developing instruments capable of discovering and analyzing the atmosphere of exoplanets. Because exoplanets are really truly the next terra incognita in astronomy. We know that there is 2 exoplanets in average in our galaxy. There is 400 billion stars in our galaxy, so that's a lot of planets. And we know that 30% of those planets have liquid water. So that means there is a lot of potential habitable world over there in our galaxy. So now we need to build those instruments that will be able to see or to detect the presence of life on those exoplanets.
Now, I'm going to ask you for an opinion. I know scientists don't like to give opinions too much, but what do you think? How comfortable would you be in saying that you're 100% certain that there's got to be life out there?
So you got me here. So I will never say I'm 100% certain about something. Even in life, I will never say that. But what motivates me in my research is the belief that there is life elsewhere. Definitely. I mean, I could not be working at the SETI Institute without believing that there is life elsewhere. The likeliness of having no life in our galaxy outside our own planet, it's so small that it's impossible, I would say. So that's my main motivation.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, life. I mean, if you look where we find life on this planet in impossible places, and life really fights to be here, you know. So I imagine it would fight to be anywhere. Someone, when you were talking about your telescope program, the one you have behind you there, someone wanted to know how they could get involved in that program.
So is that the Unistellar program? Because
Yes.
we talk a lot. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the idea is simply to purchase a telescope. We do have we have distributors around the world. You can also go on our website, unistellar.com. We'll put the link somewhere after, and you can get this telescope. And as soon as you get this telescope, you learn how to use it for observation in your house, show galaxies, nebulae, and so on. But then later on, when you feel ready, you basically on the app there is a tiny button to say join the citizen science project or something like that, and you basically get from us an invitation to join the Slack channel, to get notification when something is happening in the sky, and then you become citizen scientist.
Oh, how about that? Well, that's really interesting. And that link is in the show notes for anyone that's listening to this. You can go to our website, Podcast UFO, and it's right in the show notes for this particular one. Mary always has great questions. And you said something about defending the planet. So she wanted to know what you're defending the planet from.
The Planetary Defense Program is
Yeah.
defending the planets against asteroid impact. It's not as
Oh,
exciting
and I
as
think that's
defending.
yeah, no aliens.
No
I think
aliens.
that's extremely important. I think that's very important because it's happened before and it could certainly happen again. It's scary that we're not really protected from asteroids, and we could we saw that happen at Chelyabinsk
Yep.
several years ago, and that was just a small bus-sized one, but I mean you have something 4 miles long that is hidden by the sun and all of a sudden is coming right at us. What do we do? What do you think the future of that is?
Well, there is something important as well, is that if we want to find intelligent life elsewhere, we need to basically live enough in time, because we basically started the search recently. Only 35 years, we observe like a few 100 million stars. If you want to observe the 400 billion star and the 3 trillion galaxies, that's going to take a long time. So my idea is that the development of technology of civilization also depend on the survival, meaning that if we want to become an advanced civilization, we need to have a planetary defense program, because it will happen that an asteroid will impact our planet. It will happen, maybe not tomorrow, it will happen in 200 years, but we need to have a way to know that when this is going to happen and how to mitigate this. Any intelligent civilization in our galaxy probably already is facing the same issue, and they already developed this if they're more advanced than us. So that's part, I think, on an evolution of a technological civilization to be able to do this, to divert an asteroid to save the biosphere of its planet.
Right. Now, if we didn't have Jupiter, we'd be in a lot more trouble than we are, right? I mean,
yes, that's the shield of Jupiter has been extremely useful to protect us against comets, specifically coming from the distant Oort cloud. So we should thank Jupiter every day for being the planet that protected us against this disastrous impact.
Hang on just a minute. I'm trying to understand. I have an astronomer texting me here, a friend of mine, and I think, he has some remote telescopes. I'm trying to get what he's trying to say here. Maybe I'll ask him to call in, and if he can, let me just. Do you mind if I bring on a friend?
No, go ahead. She's a friend,
Yeah.
no
All right.
problem.
Yeah. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to just invite him on. If he can come on, he'll come in. He's listening, and he has Oh, I don't think he can come on. But anyway, I'll send you his question later when I understand exactly
Okay.
what he was saying. But people, you are welcome to pose some questions in the chat. And are we only, here's one here, are we only looking for exoplanets in our own galaxy? I mean, that's the only capability we have at this point, right? If you go out, oh, here comes Mark right now. My friend Mark just joined us, but go ahead and answer that if you would. We have
We
no,
just started searching for exoplanet outside our galaxy, and we think
oh,
we
really?
found one of them outside our galaxy. But we cheated. We basically observe a galaxy which has been kind of absorbed by our own galaxy, and we found a planet around one of those stars.
Wow, that's
But
kind of exciting. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
having other planets in other galaxies is important, because we maybe other galaxies don't have the same number of planets that we have on our Milky Way.
All right. Well, actually, Mark D'Antonio is an astronomer, and he is just, Mark, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Hi,
Mark,
Frank. How are you?
so me and
Hi.
Frank. Yeah. So Mark, you were trying to send me a question. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe it's better just to have you. Oh, you're on your phone. That's cool how you did that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it makes it easy. There's our East Coast telescope there. Listen, one of the questions I had was, Frank, was, obviously I've been a proponent of SETI. I included quotes actually from Seth in our book. But the question I wanted to ask was, we have an observatory here on the East Coast. We have one on the West Coast. And the remote systems, I run them from here. And the building out in Arizona actually has room for 2 more systems. And we have 1 system in there now. But if it was something that was required, needed, or as a test site, a beta site, something to test some software, I'd be willing to do an installation out there of equipment for SETI to try and actually further the cause. Because I think the search for lasers is actually intelligent. That's a very smart idea, because we're doing that now. we're using lasers now to do simple ranging stuff, right? And I've built circuits to modulate sound into lasers as well. I could shine a laser at a window and listen to the conversation going on in the room from hundreds of feet away. I guess that's kind of a bug, right? But still, it was a test, and those things work. So I would think that another civilization might actually do that. I like the idea very much.
Well, we should put you in contact with Elliot Gillum. He's the director of the Laser SETI project. And in fact, he's looking for sites around the world to set up this instrument. So, yeah, definitely. We, as I mentioned, we have a site right now in Hawaii, another one in California. But he wants to grow the network because we want to take advantage of the rotation of Earth. So having bases separated by 2,000 kilometers all around Earth will allow us to have a full coverage of the sky.
Okay, that might actually be best suited them for the Connecticut site in the eastern United States that we have, and maybe not Arizona, but the eastern site, we're redoing the building, and that telescope, I just rehabbed it, and that's going to go in there. But we're also going to have a room for other systems, so that'd be pretty cool. And the nice thing is it won't be too dependent on light pollution, for that project, I don't think. So that would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
wow,
since we are looking for laser, we're looking at monochromatic light. So that does work in if you have a bunch of light pollution.
Yeah, it'll work anywhere.
Here we are.
That's very cool.
Wow, I'm glad this kind of worked out, and it's all live. So that's great.
Well, Martin, you're a good guy, and I like listening to your shows. Well, anyway, thank you, Frank. It was nice to meet you.
Thank you very much, Mark.
And
keep in touch.
Maybe he can.
Yeah, I'll connect you.
Contact.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
All right, guys.
Take care, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
Thanks for coming in. Yeah. Well, that would be great if something like that worked out.
Definitely. You see?
Yeah.
Your show has been extremely useful for science. It's great.
Yeah. That's great. So let's jump over to Oumuamua. So yeah, I have a little trouble with that sometimes. But I remember I told you in the beginning I had Avi Loeb on a couple of times, and I think that's great that he has an open mind. And I know he's really stirred up a lot. There's been a lot of controversy about his thoughts on the possibilities, but I think it's great that he's open to the possibility that it could be something important and an antique, dead spacecraft or something of possibilities. And the thing that we always think of when we think about that is that rock that someone did a graphic of, but from the way it reacted as it went by the sun, it's probably really thin, something really thin. So what do you think about that whole situation?
So one of the major issues we have with Oumuamua is the fact that we detected it after he passed the sun. And that's a problem. We basically don't have enough data point, not enough observation of this body. It does exhibit some kind of weird non-gravitational acceleration, which is basically the idea is that it's not following up a very perfect orbit that you expect, considering the presence of the sun. There is some slight deviation, like if it was blown away by something. Okay, we have seen that on other solar system bodies. We have seen that on comets. We have seen that on asteroids that outgas, etc. We have now discovered that some asteroids have some kind of volcanic activity. This is a beast that's coming from another planetary system with a composition that may be very different to what we have in our own solar system. So I don't want to undermine every theory, but in my mind, this is the problem. The problem is that we don't have enough data. It's coming from very far away from us, very different. So maybe he has a very weird behavior. And we will not know that until we go back to try to catch on him and see him have a mission that basically visit Oumuamua. And that's going to be very difficult because it's far away already.
Yeah.
Or if we find another one soon enough and we study it. Theoretically, models show that we should have one visitor, interstellar visitor like that every year. We saw Borisov 2 years later, if I remember. Oumuamua was in 2017, Borisov was in 2019. We are building telescopes, the Vera Rubin telescope, that will be able to cover the entire sky, the southern sky, every 3 days. And we'll have the sensitivity to see objects like this early enough.
Wow.
So we are making progress in science to be able to see them. So I'm getting ready. In fact, every time someone asks me what kind of instrument you want to install on these next space telescopes or on these next ground-based telescopes, I always say something that will be able to characterize a Oumuamua-like object. So we have data to understand truly what's going on. I'm talking about mid-infrared spectra to see the composition of the surface, visible light, sensitive enough to follow the body all the way until he leaves and when he arrives. So all of this, it's important. We really need to have more instruments capable of observing the entire sky 24/7. And this is coming. LSST is one of them. We have the ZTF. We have multiple surveys like that, Atlas. So we are getting better. So my answer is, let's wait for another Oumuamua before jumping into conclusion for this one. And let's see, maybe it will be very different. Maybe we have this weird gravitational acceleration. And once again, let's have an open mind on this and do some proper studies so we understand what this body could be.
Did I see that there's some type of an association between SETI and the Galileo project that Avi Loeb started? Some type of connection.
Seth is
maybe
part
it's
of
Seth,
the board.
Seth Shostak is. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's it.
And what type of contribution are they looking from? So Seth himself is not. He's not SETI. It's
not SETI.
Separately from SETI. I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. Yeah. Well, it's all very interesting. I'm just looking here. We have about 5 minutes left to the show. So what do you think? You said on another show that you think within 10 years we're going to find life, I don't think you said intelligent life, but do you think the odds are just as high that there's intelligent life out there? You know, I know
think
everything
the
has to
odds are
start microbial, you know, Mike,
Yeah.
everything has to start small and evolve, but still, you know, we have, the odds are out there that there's intelligent life and possibly much higher intelligent life than we have here.
Yeah, and also, I mean, intelligent life is something that may need to be better characterized. Meaning that if we are looking for biological intelligent life like ours, we're probably restraining significantly our search to planets like Earth orbiting around G-type stars, sun-like stars that receive the same kind of light, so have the same kind of vegetation and as involved in the same way. Frankly, this kind of life probably there is very small percent of that. If you want to find life, like big life, any type of life, we will have to learn more and understand more what is life. So that's one of the reasons I'm really pushing for us to start building those new space telescopes. Like UFO is the code name we have. It's a 6-meter class telescope that will be able, with an adaptive optic system in the sky, that will be able to take images of planets. We're not talking about transiting or nothing like this here. You see an image of a planet. For an astronomer, an image is a dot. Just don't get too excited, Mark. It's just a tiny dot. But that's enough for us, because one dot with the color and the motion of the dot, the variation of light, give us a lot of information about the planet. Whether or not the planet has an ocean, the composition of the planet, whether the planet has a desertic area, chlorophylls, all of this. The planet, with an image, we get significantly more information than seeing the shadow of the planet. So,
that's
excellent.
Yeah.
UFO is the top priority of the decadal survey of NSF NASA. So that means that if we will have funding in the next 10, 20 years to build this instrument.
Wow, that will be amazing. I just wanted to show for the listener, this is a very interesting image from the Webb telescope, and that's like a nebula, right? It's not like that's like the birth of stars right there. Uh-oh, I'm not hearing you. Did we lose your audio? We may have lost your audio. You know, we have to wrap in a minute, less than a minute anyway. So you can wave to the audience, but thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. There you are. You're back. Yes. Thank you. Well, we have to wrap anyway, but I want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right. You take care, and hopefully you'll be the one that discovers life out there. I hope you do.
I will be back.
All right.
I will be back.
Yeah, you can come back. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye now. All right, everyone. So we'll be back next week. We have Dr. Michael Masters. Should be a good show. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to keep your eyes to the sky.